Hellraiser.
Ooh.
Shall we get into it?
Yes. What was the year? 1987?
The year I was born.
Wow.
So both of these movies have a connection to our
That's
birthdays.
that's a good that's a sign. That's a clear sign.
Yes. So Hellraiser 1987, written and directed by Clive Barker, um, who got his start. He's from Liverpool. Did you know that? He's a Liverpool lad.
Liverpudlian?
He's Liverpudlian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a lot of great art comes from Liverpool. Um,
The Beatles.
the Beatles, ever heard of them? Um, but yeah, I have a deep love for this movie. Um, it's kind of hard for me to explain. Uh, I guess it really just started when I was maybe in middle school, and I must have caught Hellraiser 2 on TV, and it just scared the shit out of me.
Oh, wow.
Like,
So Hellraiser 2 was your entry point.
I think so, because I mean, like, obviously, I knew about Pinhead. He was like at that point, in like the late 90s, he was already kind of solidified as
hmm
a iconic horror figure,
hmm
like Jason and Freddy and Pinhead. He's
Yeah.
up there with like the main guys.
Yeah, he's an icon of horror.
Yeah,
Pinhead. We love him.
we love Pinhead. Uh, Played by Doug Bradley, who was a friend of Clive Barker's in Liverpool. Um, so both of these movies, they the director was really kind of taking their friend groups to like help make these movies,
Yeah.
which I think adds to the charm of both of them. But when I first saw it, I had never seen gore or body horror in that way ever. And I think
Yeah.
that, that the first scene in Hellraiser 2 is the end of Hellraiser 1, which is one of the most insanely gory things you've
Oh
probably
yeah.
ever seen. And it's such an insanely bold choice to like the very first thing you see in Hellraiser 2 is the most gory scene in Hellraiser 1. So just
hmm
right off the bat, you're just like in
hmm
this very like horrific way. And you once you see that, you're like, holy fuck, like what else is gonna happen? And then once they introduce the Cenobites, which are these demons that are kind of like, well, Pinhead is a Cenobite as well, but there are these like underworld demons, and
hmm
they all have particular features.
hmm
And so like the Chatterer, who is like this demon who just has like teeth that chatter.
I love
um
him.
yeah, Chatterer is awesome. But yeah, like the face tearing scene in Chatterer like just embedded itself into my nightmares like at a very early age. I must have been like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of started me on this path of loving body horror because I'd never been moved in that way
hmm
I mean, some of my early scares were Alien, like the chest bursting scene, but that's kind of body horror too.
hmm Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so I don't know. This movie just kind of embedded itself in me at an early age, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and always would kind of refer to it as the scariest thing I've ever seen. But I had never seen the original Hellraiser. I didn't know where all of this stuff came from. So once I
Mm.
saw Hellraiser, I was actually a little let down because Hellraiser is a love story, actually, and it's kind of
hmm
schlocky. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a soap opera,
hmm
and it does not go nearly as hard as Hellraiser 2 does. Like
Yeah.
Hellraiser 2 is like every 5 minutes you're getting like the scare or like the gore you've never seen.
hmm
Whenever I would talk about Hellraiser and it being my favorite, I'd always say Hellraiser 2 is my favorite. It includes the best parts of Hellraiser, the original, and then also goes way further.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I forgot how much Hellraiser 2, like it's like directly after Hellraiser 1. It's very much continuing the story.
yeah.
It feels more like a part 2 than like a sequel. Like it's like
Hmm. Yeah.
same characters, same actors. It's like very much connected, but it's not directed by Clive Barker.
No, it's not. But the story is written by him, and it was very much blessed by him. And
Hmm.
I think written by Peter Atkins, who was another one of his friends from Liverpool, from like his theater days there. And so he adapted his script, and then Peter Atkins also adapted the next two, Hellraiser 3 and 4. So
Hmm.
all four of those movies, the Quartet of Torment, as they call it, is very much like blessed by Clive Barker. But once you get beyond those, Clive Barker really had nothing to do with them. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so I mean, for those who don't know, there are 11 Hellraisers now,
And you've seen them all.
and I've seen them all.
Wow. That's including the remake, or the reboot 2022 one or whatever.
Yeah. I saw that one, which I think is really good in terms of like everything after four. I think it's the best. It's like fifth in my ranking. I would
Hmm.
say it does a better job of kind of honoring the originals. I just wanted to say that to set up like kind of my background with Hellraiser. But now, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've really come around to Hellraiser 1 and
Hmm.
appreciate its story building and its sincerity.
Yeah.
It is not winking at the camera at all. This is a true horror story. And the lore behind it and all of the weird psychological, psychosexual um, elements that Clive Barker includes in this, I just think make it a one of a kind of film. And I really appreciate it more for the story now. And so now I watch Hellraiser every year. Like it's kind of my way of getting into spooky season. I
Hmm.
love it. I love its dark and slow like manner of telling this very creepy story.
I agree with you. I think I love Hellraiser as well. I think it's a 5-star masterpiece. Just an
Hmm.
incredible way to kick off a horror franchise. I I love it. The makeup and special effects in this are just incredible. Like definitely few cuts above the Evil Dead, in terms of how it looks. I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely seemed like they had a bigger budget, and it was
Yeah.
like 6 years later, so like technology has progressed a bit, but it still holds up incredibly well.
Yeah.
Watching Hellraiser today, and
Oh, absolutely.
it was only my second time watching it earlier this week for this podcast, but yeah, I definitely loved it even more on a rewatch.
Nice. And you
It's
watched
incredible.
Hellraiser 2 as well?
Yeah, I watched Hellraiser 2 first, which is I was really thankful that it has a recap of Hellraiser 1
Yeah.
and within Hellraiser 2, so it can remind me of all the shit that happens in it, and it does a pretty
Hmm.
good job of like giving you a nice little recap.
It's your first time seeing 2?
Now, it's actually also a second time, so
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen 2 before, but those are the only. And well, and I watched the 2022 reboot in preparation for this pod, which I think is just fine. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
a big
okay.
fan of that movie, but the first two Hellraisers, masterpieces of horror, I think. Five stars.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised seeing your letterbox review as you were watching them. All these movies, you gave 5 stars.
Yeah, I think
5 stars across the board.
I gave Evil Dead 2 4.5 stars.
Oh,
I was a little meaner to Evil Dead 2, just because I feel like it really does gets a little more bogged down in the second half. It
Yeah.
doesn't hang together as well as like a full movie.
Like I said, I love Hellraiser. I've got this double feature Blu-ray of Hellraiser 1 and 2. And then when I wanted to do this challenge of watching every sequel, which is notorious for being horrible, like people shit on all of the subsequent Hellraisers a lot. And so I found this DVD set that's six movies in one DVD case.
It's on one DVD.
No, it's three DVDs.
Oh, okay.
Um, so the first DVD has Hellraiser 3 and 4, and then one has 5, and then the last one has 3 on it. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, a lot of the Hellraiser movies are like 80 minutes long, like they're quick.
yes. Yeah. That was what I was really appreciating about these rewatches was I was actually watching some of the sequels at like 2 times or 1.5 speed. Just did like a
Hmm.
full speed watch of a bunch of these movies, and it was like, oh, that was like 40 minutes. Like, I'll do another one. Like, let's just like rip through like 4 or 5 of these right now.
They're pretty
Um,
watchable at 2 times speed.
Oh, it's amazing how much more watchable they are. I mean, like if you, especially if you know the kills, if you know the Cenobites, like if you're pretty familiar with the movies, like you can
Hmm.
still enjoy some of the fun set pieces like at a higher speed. But yeah, at
Hmm.
that point, it's like binging like a TV show. It's like each
Hmm.
each one is like a 40-minute episode.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Um,
And the
and
Evil Dead movies are short too, or like they're all like 80, 90 minutes. So
yeah,
make
yeah,
horror
but
movies 90 minutes again.
yes, absolutely. And then I have the Hellbound Heart, the book, which I try to peruse every year as well. And then I have the box.
Whoa. It's like
I
a little
actually
Rubik's Cube.
it's the puzzle box. Like you actually can pull it apart. Um, which I don't mean it. I guess I could do it, but
It's like it can turn to like different forms, kind of.
yeah, so you it's two pieces that interlock that,
Hmm.
the first is just a cube, and then if you pull it out, it kind of twist it, and then you can put it back in, and it has that kind of, I don't know, the Hellraiser shape. I don't know what you would call it. It's the Hellraiser rhombus,
Yeah.
but it also does this.
Whoa, pulls out some chains.
Yeah, some chains drop out of it, which is pretty
Nice.
sick. And that, yeah, so
Yeah.
I spent a little extra money for that one because it actually works. And I figured out yesterday how to do it. I was like Frank sitting on the floor, lit some candles, and I was like, I'm gonna figure this shit out. And I
Shirtless.
yeah, shirtless. I got ripped apart by chains.
Yeah,
And then I also have a little like stash box. That's the Hellraiser box, the lament configuration, as they call it in
nice.
the movies. But in the book, it's called La Manchance. It's like a French name. I think that they probably were just like, we're not going to be saying this French word over and over. Let's call it the lament configuration. Hellraiser 4 goes deep into the lore of the puzzle box, and I actually really appreciate it. Adam Scott's in there as his
Oh,
first
wow.
film role ever.
Young Scott.
A young Scott who's given some major looks. He looks amazing. He's got this long hair. He's very baby faced, looking
Hmm.
hot. And the fourth movie moves from the year like 2127, like way in the future, and then goes back into the 17th century France, and then like scoots ahead to the 90s. And like in the 90s and the French time periods, there are like different versions of Adam Scott. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I
Um,
might have to check that one out.
you should. I think, like, honestly, this time around, I really came to appreciate 3 and 4 a lot more, especially since seeing all the other movies that come after it. Like 5 through 8 are just pure trash. They're
Like straight to video kind of
They're
bullshit.
all straight to video. The first four had theatrical releases at least, and they have some really fun scenes. I mean, Hellraiser 3 has one of my favorite kill scenes in any movie, which I think I showed you one time when you came over.
Oh, was it the CD guy
Yeah,
or the
yes,
DJ guy?
the CD Cenobite is incredible. The camera Cenobite, camera guy Cenobite is awesome.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
then
good bit.
there's like this scene in this club called the Boiler Room where Pinhead comes in and just fucking wastes everybody. It's just a complete slaughter in this like 90s, kind of goth bar where he's
Mhm.
just so many fun creative kills, like people getting chains. Like there's one where there's like the chain goes through like three people. There's one where like some girl's like just her cheek gets ripped off. um uh, and then yeah, like the the DJ, like the CDs come to life and like go around his head and then like spike into him. And
Yeah, it feels very Evil Dead 2 with a kind
yes,
of an Army of Darkness as just zany kills and goofy
yes.
energy.
Yeah, I mean, in that way, I feel like Hellraiser and Evil Dead are alike too, because first one, serious horror film. Second
Mhm.
one, let's just take it up a notch and just kind of dive into this world. And then three is like, we're just gonna go bonkers and have fun.
Yeah, just cartoon shit.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think they're related in that way too. But it might be a good way to go through the first one. Do a little plot bop. I think we should do a little bit of a plot bop because this one is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, a little bit more plot heavy than the Evil Dead, which
Yeah.
is more just like they kind of read a book and then awaken and evil bad shit keeps happening.
This one is a little more psychological and
Sexual,
very sexual, very
horny,
horny.
and it is a family film. It's filmed with family.
It is a family film.
It's about uncles and dads and
Brothers.
stepmoms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically, the movie starts with Frank, this guy Frank, who
good name.
who buys the box, the puzzle box. And it's like very Gremlins-esque, where it's like, it's like given to him by like this like Asian guy. It's like you don't really know
Yeah,
like where it came from.
some
But
random market
yeah,
in Chinatown.
yeah, and he's like, "What's your pleasure, Mr. Cotton?" Uh, Frank Cotton is the guy's name. You see Frank trying to open the box on the floor, surrounded by candles, and he awakens the spirits, and chains are flying at him, and he just screams, and then it's like beginning. That's like the cold open, and they just kind of end it there. And then we flash forward. But what I wanted to say is that scene of Frank opening the box is much more fleshed out in the book. This is where I came to really appreciate the first Hellraiser, was actually after reading The Hellbound Heart, because it goes into so much more detail about what's the reason people are opening up this box. Like, why is it? And basically, the thing that they don't really go into too much, they hint at it in the movie, is that Frank was just this absolute freak. Like, he was fucking people all over the world and basically needed more. He'd already maxed out on pleasure from every single possible way. And so he was basically told by a friend, like, here, open this box and you'll find real pleasure. And in the beginning of the book, it basically is like he imagines that like he'll open this box and he'll be like greeted by like 70 virgins and all of this. And instead, he's greeted by the Cenobites, by Pinhead. And
Who are not virgins.
who are not. They are sex demons. And I wanted to play for you the audiobook that's actually read by Clive Barker for the Hellbound Heart, which I also listen to every Halloween because I just
Mhm.
love the way that he reads it. It's like true, like, scary story. The way that well, you'll hear it, but just the way that he reads and the way he expresses his own words are very illuminating to the story. So let me play a little bit of this so you can hear Clive Barker's voice and then also get into a little bit of Frank's awakening the Cenobites.
All right, I'm into it.
Every inch of its head had been tattooed with an intricate grid, and at every intersection of horizontal and vertical axes a jeweled pin driven through to the bone. Its tongue was similarly decorated. "Do you even know who we are?" it asked. "Yes," Frank said at last. "I know." All that mankind knew of the Order of the Gash he knew. And yet he had expected something different, expected some sign of the numberless splendors they had access to. He had thought they would come with women, at least. Oiled women, milked women, women shaved and muscled for the act of love, their lips perfumed, their thighs trembling to spread, their buttocks weighty the way he liked them. He had expected sighs and languid bodies spread on the flowers underfoot like a living carpet, had expected virgin whores whose every crevice was his for the asking, and whose skills would press him upward, upward, to undreamt of ecstasies. The world would be forgotten in their arms. He would be exalted by his lust instead of despised for it. But no, no women, no sighs, only these sexless things with their corrugated flesh. Now the third spoke. Its features were so heavily scarified that its eyes were invisible. "What do you want?" it asked him. He perused this questioner more confidently than he had the other two. His fear was draining away with every second that passed. Memories of the terrifying place beyond the wall were already receding. "Kershaw told me there will be 5 of you," Frank said. "The engineer will arrive, should the moment merit," came the reply. "Now again, we ask you, what do you want?" Why should he not answer them straight? "Pleasure," he replied. "Kershaw said you know about pleasure." "Everything you ever wanted?" The first of them stared at him with its all too naked eyes. "Oh, yes. Oh, most certainly. Your most treasured depravity is child's play beside the experiences we offer." "Will you partake of them?" said the second Cenobite. Frank looked at the scars and the hooks. Again his tongue was deficient.
You get the idea. But I was
I was
thinking,
getting sucked in.
yeah, yeah. It's do you want me to keep going?
No, we
I
should
mean,
probably get back to
yeah.
the
I,
pod.
no, but I mean, I absolutely adore that audiobook and reading of it. I love how it illuminates the reason for the box and why the Cenobites appear. And I also just love the way he reads it. He's got a great voice.
That's not what his voice, what I imagine it to be at all, but it makes sense when he
Mhm.
says he's from Liverpool. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you hear the name Clive Barker and associated with Hellraiser, I just imagine a real deep voiced,
Yeah.
monotone man. But he's just
No.
like he's like Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of looks like Paul too, honestly. Like,
I just wanted to make a movie about Cenobites, you know?
all you need is skin.
All you need is love, all you need is skin.
Yeah, he's like a real bloke. And yeah, again, I think I said this in the beginning, but everything anybody says about him is just he's the most intelligent, interesting guy, charming, super nice guy. He was also gay and like was like into BDSM. He said like he was like he said on a sliding scale of BDSM, he's like a 6 from like a 1 to 10. So that explains a lot of like the hooks and chains and leather and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, just the stylings of the Cenobites is very BDSM. So he's not looking down on that culture. He's like he's into it.
Oh no, yeah, he's like very much, yeah, again, like the sincerity of this movie, it's truly his vision and truly like the things that he wanted to see. And I feel like if you see the movie for the first time, you don't really know who Frank is, or like you know that he's Larry's brother, but you don't know really what his background is. They don't really get into this like horn dog nature of him, and that like he opened this box, he unleashed hell because he like didn't have enough sex. Like he was just like that much of a sex addict that he was like, I need to take it further.
Yeah,
Um,
but you do see him seduce his brothers, like it's like before their wedding or something,
yeah.
or
So let me get let's bop through the plot a little bit more. After you get this quick little scene of Frank opening the box, we flash forward to some point in the future where Frank's brother, Larry, is coming to the house where Frank performed this ritual with his wife Julia, and they
hmm
move back into quote the old homestead.
hmm
And so you can imagine maybe Frank and Larry grew up there because they're brothers.
hmm
Um, and they get into the house, and it's clear that Frank had been squatting there.
hmm
So there's one great scene where, they're like looking around, and he's like, "You don't like it? What do you think of the house?" And she's like, "Well, it's better than Brooklyn." It's like this like awful house like filled with maggots and like rotting flesh smell.
Yeah.
But yeah, they come across Frank's little like squatting bed, and they're like kind of going through his stuff, and Julia finds these like sex photos of Frank like hooking up with women where he's like
Mhm.
fully clothed. They're like naked. There's like the one lady with like a kabuki mask on for some reason.
That's pretty
But
kinky, fully clothed sex.
yeah. I don't know. Julia's just generally acting a little weird about the place. And when she finds the photos of Frank, she gets kind of like overwhelmed with like, I don't know, she starts just getting turned on.
hmm
And then it flashes back to the day before Julia and Larry's wedding, and Frank shows up like looking sexy in the rain, like he's like kind of straddling the the door frame, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Let me in," and he seduces her, and they end up boning.
Yeah, pretty much right away. It's
Yeah,
like she doesn't think twice about
yeah.
boning her fiance's brother.
But yeah, so things start to get interesting when Julia kind of goes up to the attic to kind of collect herself after getting all hot and heavy from seeing these photos of Frank. And
hmm
while Larry is moving a mattress up the stairs, because they're just moving into the
hmm
house, when the mattress plays a big part in the franchise, actually. So that was something I clocked this time, is like one of the first pieces of furniture you see them moving in is the mattress.
hmm
um and
Great mattress scene in Hellraiser 2.
yes, absolutely. One of the scenes that really freaked me out as a kid, and I remember watching with Drew, with it like,
Mhm.
get him off me
Oh
when
yeah,
he's,
that's like with the knife, just like
yeah,
scratching himself everywhere.
yeah, that's really hard to watch. You will be hard pressed to find something that freaky and weird in horror films. I don't know. They just do it so well. But anyways,
hmm
so he's moving the mattress up the stairs, and he gashes his hand really bad on a nail. Larry does. And
Yeah.
so then he goes up to Julia because he's like afraid of the blood, and he doesn't want to like look at the blood. And so he's like holding his hand out, and blood is pouring onto the floorboards.
hmm
And this triggers Frank's return,
Yes.
where he starts basically absorbing the blood in order to escape hell. And
hmm
so you see Frank slowly start to come to
Form.
life. Yeah, form through the floorboards. And the first time you see it, it was right after he soaks in the blood from the floorboards, and they go underneath the floorboards, and you just see like these like veins and like a little kind of like heart type thing like throbbing. As that scene progresses, there's this incredible practical effects scene. Skeleton emerges from the floorboards like in a pile of goop and is like connecting its brain together. And uh I don't know. Do you want to describe that scene a little bit, like from your perspective?
Yeah, I don't even have words to describe it. It's like you just got it's got to be seen to believe.
Yeah,
It
it's just
looks
like
really
this.
good though.
Yeah, it's just this disgusting skeleton. And I was watching this behind the scenes documentary called Leviathan, which is an extensive 4.5 hour documentary about Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. They literally interview every single person who's ever touched either film. It's insane. They go into every single detail, but
You watched the whole
apparently,
thing?
no. I just watched the first part of it. More on Hellraiser 1, but they were going to convenience stores and buying out the KY jelly of every single store. And also condoms. That's like how they like made like a lot of the practical kind of like breathing effects
Mm.
were from like literally like blowing into into a condom.
It's perfect
Um
for a movie. It's all about pleasure and sex,
exactly. So
and
like yeah,
also practical use.
all the goopiness, all the like slimy, shiny stuff, that's all lube. Yeah, I mean, you've got that incredible set piece of the skeleton coming alive, but then Julia goes upstairs because she's like hearing something. You first see Frank kind of peer around this corner, and he keeps going, "Don't look at me." Which I think it's hilarious. Like he's like,
Yeah.
"Julia, don't look at me."
Yeah, Frank's voice is kind of hilarious.
Yes.
It's
Uh,
yeah, it feels very like theater stagey. I don't know.
yeah, it's very theatrical. But yeah, so basically he tells Julia, and he's like in this very, I don't know, like sinewy, grizzled look. Like he just like looks like a gray kind of skeleton with just like nerve endings.
Hmm.
He basically explains to Julia that he needs blood in order to heal himself. So he tells Julia he's got to go out. She's got to go out and kill some folks
Hmm.
in order for him to heal so that they can bone again.
Yeah. And she's like, okay.
She's like, I'm into it. Yeah, it's like Frank is was just that good at fucking. Like she was
Yeah.
like, I'll do anything to get this guy again.
And they do show some of them fucking in the movie, and it looks
Yeah.
like he's doing a good job. I don't know. I get it.
Yeah, and what do you I've always kind of struggled with the actress who plays Julia. Like I'm not gonna, you know, judge her, but I don't think she's like the hottest actress.
Hmm.
She's just got like a kind of a crazy 80s haircut, like
Hmm.
that's like very like David Bowie, like real tall haircut.
Yeah, I mean the daughter seems like she's the real babe of the movie, and
Yeah.
the mom's supposed to be kind of a nefarious character.
Yeah, she's the
So,
evil stepmother.
but she's good in the movie.
Oh yeah, she's a great actress, but the way that she like lures all these men into the attic to kill them,
Hmm.
are just like I don't know. I just kind of wish she was a little bit more of like a bombshell, like easier to take people. But I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's also the charm of this movie because it's like feels more a little realistic.
Yeah, she's also going after guys that are like kind of like schlubby, balding men. Like
Yeah, true.
she's not going after like hot guys. Like she can
Yeah.
definitely pull the guys that she's getting
Yes,
based on her
that's
looks. And
true.
I feel like the movie's aware of where her
Yeah.
attractiveness level is, and if all makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. And my friend pointed out too that if Julia was super hot, she probably wouldn't be going to all these lengths to bring Frank back because
Hmm.
she could just pull another hot guy. But like Frank's probably as good as she's ever done. She's like, I will literally kill for this guy's dick.
Yeah. Yeah, and Frank just wants to come back alive. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't really he just sees her as a tool. It's not like
Yes.
he like I don't think he really loves her that much.
No. Yeah, so Julia starts luring people into the attic to kill for Frank. Frank is just it's incredible his progression because every
Hmm.
time she feeds him, and I made this connection last year. I don't know how I didn't think of this before, but it's very much um Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah, feed
It's
me Seymour.
yeah, it's feed me Seymour. It's the same kind of dynamic where it's like you got to feed me to keep me alive and heal me and make me grow. And so like every time you see Frank subsequently, he's got a little bit more muscle, a little bit more like blood. He's looking a little bit,
Hmm.
but like
And
again,
you
yeah,
and you love Little Shop of Horrors, right? Like
yeah,
that's one of your movies.
yeah. So it was one of my favorites growing up, and I love that kind of like plot dynamic. It like makes everything make sense.
Hmm.
It advances the plot in a very logical way.
Yeah, and they can feel like kind of like shitty for doing it, but they want still are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird mix of like they're doing it for somebody. So it's like there's weird mix of like altruism and, obviously sinister stuff.
Yeah.
The way that she kills these guys is with a hammer. Just bashes their head or like bashes their jaw, and you get like some great makeup effects of like the dude's like teeth missing. But after Frank like sucks their blood out, like basically like sucks their life force, they create these incredible mannequins that just give these grotesque features to all of their victims. They just like their faces sagging and gray and all
Hmm.
different colors and just incredible.
Yeah, and
Um,
I love the progression of Frank when he's like becomes enough of a person that he can actually wear clothes again. And
yeah.
he's just like a skinless man wearing a t-shirt and smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
It's a great visual.
Yes, which they bring back in Hellraiser 2 in such a great way too when the script is kind of flipped with Julia being the Frank character where she's coming back slowly as this
Hmm.
bloodied figure.
Yeah.
But the one thing I was thinking about is like, you know, anytime a character dies in Hellraiser because of a demon or they get sent to hell, they become a Cenobite, and the Cenobite takes on the features of kind of their life in a way.
Hmm.
Like in Hellraiser 2, the doctor, he has like the brain tools like fixed to the back of his head. And I was like, Julia should be a hammer Cenobite.
Oh yeah. She does some good work with the hammer.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, just eviscerates that guy's bottom jaw.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's a good shot.
Move us through the plot, Bob, here. So,
Pop up.
uh, one of the main characters is Kirsty, who is Larry's daughter. Kirsty's like in the first half, she's not really super important, but then halfway through, she comes to the house and sees Frank as he is, like bloodied. And you get the iconic line of when Frank sees Kirsty and he's like, Kirsty, it's me, Uncle Frank. Come to daddy. That like that's the stuff that like I just brings such a smile to my face. Like all the like, don't look at me, come to daddy. It's Uncle Frank. Like that stuff is so fun.
Yeah.
And then like Kirsty realizes that it's Frank and he's like this tortured creature monster that lives in her attic. And she she realizes that it's Frank and she sees the box and she picks it up and Frank's like, give that back to me. And she's like, oh, you want this? And then she jumps out the window with the box and you get this great like, no scene of Frank like just over exaggerating a lot of like slow-mo shots of like Kirsty when she's running away where she's like
Mhm.
remembering Frank saying come to daddy and he's like go daddy and like this like cross-faded stuff. It's so good.
Yeah, I do like that this movie kind of it starts off as it feels like you're following the stepmom more. Like she feels like kind of like the character you're following, and then it just switches like the protagonist a little bit or
Oh
switches
yeah.
over to Kirsty. So I don't know, I think it's cool when movies kind of can do that, like switch who you're following halfway
Right.
through.
Well, yeah, because you need like a hero, and Julia's still the bad. She's the bad guy, and you don't really love Larry. He's just this kind of hapless husband,
Hmm.
and so he's not really like a protagonist. You're not rooting for Larry, but
Yeah.
Kirsty is the one who kind of figures everything out. So she runs away with the box, goes to the hospital. She wakes up in the hospital because I guess I don't know. She hurt herself when she jumped out the window and she goes to the hospital, and the doctor's like, "Hey, we found this box that you were clinging on to. You want to just hang on to that?" And so the doctors walk away, and she opens the puzzle box, and then we get the gates of hell opened in the hospital,
Mm.
which is great. And you get
Like the
finally,
walls like literally kind of like open.
yeah, split open. And what's revealed there is what's called the labyrinth in Hellraiser lore. It's basically just where all the people who are dragged to hell like go. It's like the, I don't know, maybe like the purgatory
So
or
it's
whatever.
is it hell or is it just like a section of hell or
The lore is confusing, but in Hellraiser 2, they keep like running around that maze. That's the labyrinth. And then where hell is, where like Cenobites are created, essentially, is that big diamond that's like in the sky. That's called
Mm,
the Leviathan. And so
okay.
it's basically like a section of hell that is like for people who called the Cenobites because they're like obsessed with sex. Like they're like it's like the sex addicts section of hell.
Yeah.
As far as I understand it. I mean, it is kind of complicated. I really tried looking into it, but I think that yeah, it's like basically the way it goes is like you open the box, the Cenobites come and they're like, what's your pleasure? Like why'd you call us? Like
Yeah.
there is like a little bit of a negotiation.
Hmm.
Pinhead's always kind of like, what's up? Why'd you call us?
I can't read your mind. Let's talk about this. Let's set some
Yeah,
ground rules here.
yeah. And it's like it really is like okay, you're gonna go to hell because you're a sinner anyways, and you want this sexual pleasure. We'll give it to you in this demented way. Um,
But they don't want you to leave. Like
yeah,
it's
and so
like
you
it's a one-way
you
trip.
yeah, and so this leads into our next scene. She runs through. So that big worm creature that starts attacking her when she
In the
walks
hallway.
through. Yeah, when she walks into the or the labyrinth for the first time.
Yeah, is
That
that guy have a name? I love that guy.
Yeah, so that creature is called the Engineer, and he's basically the guy who determines what your Cenobite fate will be.
He doesn't speak English though. He's like a
He's just a
raving
monster.
creature. He's like a
Yeah.
yeah. He was kind of reminding me of the creature in Basket Case a little
Yeah.
bit. He's kind of
Oh!
yeah, he's kind of got that kind of face. It's
Yeah.
like hard to imagine him engineering anything. He seems kind of crazy, but I love him.
Yeah. Yeah, he also reminds me of also it's not a he. Let's not gender the
The
engineer.
engineer. So there they.
It's yeah, so they reminded me a lot of the weird creature that's the end of Evil Dead 2. The one that he like
Oh
sticks
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
eye. Yeah, and it like
Yeah, they kind of got a similar look.
so anyways, this is when so she runs away from that guy, but then the Cenobites, Pinhead, Chatterer, Butterball, and the female Cenobite, which is really literally what her name is in the credits.
There's one of the big guy Butterball
Yeah.
with the Morpheus sunglasses.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just the fat Cenobite named Butterball.
Yeah, I love him. I mean,
And
they're all great.
yeah, and then the female Cenobite, um, and I think that she's lovingly called by Hellraiser fans as Deep Throat because she's got the like her
Oh
larynx kind
yeah.
of torn up open in the middle of her throat. Pinhead shows up and he's like, "What's up, Kirsty? You open the box. We
Hmm.
came.
Yeah.
What do you want?" And yeah, this little negotiation takes place where basically they're like, "Why did you call us?" And Kirsty says, "Do you know somebody named Frank?" And they're like, "Frank Cotton? Yeah, I know him." And she's like, "Well, he escaped you." And they're like, "That's not possible." And she's like, "Well, he did. And I can take you to him if you take him to hell instead of me." And I just think it's so funny. Drew and I have talked about this a lot. This happens in Hellraiser 1 and 2, how like easily manipulated Pinhead is. He's like, "Go on, I'm listening." Um,
Maybe.
like, okay, I'll hear you. But I just want to play that scene because this is like
Yeah.
iconic.
We can't. Not alone.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
Please, go away and leave me alone.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Wait, please wait.
No time for argument.
You've done this before, right?
Many, many times.
To a man called Frank Cotton.
Oh, yes.
He escaped you.
Nobody escapes us.
He did. I've seen him.
Impossible.
He's alive.
Supposing he had escaped us. What has that to do with you?
I can lead you to him, and you can take him back instead of me.
Perhaps we prefer you.
I want to hear him confess himself. Then, maybe.
But if you
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you want like just like a metal like guitar riff just to start playing as soon as he says like
Hell yeah.
I love earlier in that scene where it's kind of creepy when the Chatterer just like shoves his fingers in Kirsty's mouth and like
Yeah.
just like pushes her to the wall. Like it's like damn, that's
Yeah. I think that was a decision by that actor too, that like he was like, "What if I stick my fingers in your mouth? Would that be weird?" And they were like, "No, I love it. Go for it." But
that was the
but
voice of the actress. I love it. We'll do it.
but I want to play the scene from Hellraiser 2 as well because it's just so funny. Like Pinhead does the same basic thing where he's like, no, you tricked me before. Don't do this. She's like, "Well, hold on, let's work a deal out again." He's like, "All right."
Time to play.
Wait.
No more deals, Kirsty. It is your flesh we want to experience, not your skill at bargaining.
No deals. Just information. Just information.
Go on. But trick us
All right.
again, child. And your suffering will be legendary, even in hell.
But he's like, "Go on."
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Yeah, he loves to goss.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that happens throughout the franchise is when Pinhead shows up, he's kind of like, "Let's figure this out. What are you into?"
Yeah, he's got some humanity to him, even though he looks like a demon. He's not going to rush into anything. He wants to hear things out.
Yeah, I mean, and that was something that Clive Barker really wanted to do is make it seem or emphasize the point that Cenobites were human. And so that's what a lot of what Hellbound, the second movie, is about how all of these Cenobites went from being human to being demons.
Yeah, and you get to see the human form of them for a little bit, which is fun.
Hmm. Chatterer is like a little boy.
Oh yeah, that broke my heart. Little boy chatter.
Boy Chatter.
Come here, chatter.
Dinner time, Chatter.
One random thought is I was thinking Kirsty kind of reminds me of Winona Ryder a little bit, or
A little
like
bit.
kind of, but maybe a little bit of Sloane from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the name of that actress? I don't know. She's not really in much stuff, but she's pretty great in the first two Hellraiser movies. Oh, Ashley Lawrence.
So she's in a little bit of Hellraiser 3. She's the main character in Hellraiser 2. And then she comes back briefly in I think it's the sixth Hellraiser, called Hellseeker, where I think it's like it's the main character is Kirsty's brother or something like that. I don't know. I like really blocked that movie out of my head. The
Yeah.
thing that's really sad about the sequels after four is so they were acquired by Dimension Films. Actually, Hellraiser 3 is the first Dimension film, which is like an offshoot of Miramax. Miramax was owned by the Weinsteins, Harvey Weinstein, obviously, and five, six, seven, and eight are all these like Skinamax, fucking like softcore porn mixed with like, some tropes of Hellraiser. At least like Doug Bradley is in it, still playing Pinhead. So you still
Pinhead
get like,
pops up in each one.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you can't have Hellraiser without Pinhead. So
Maybe one of
you
them they don't have Pinhead, it's just chatter. It's like just me this time.
little boy chatter.
Here comes chatter.
We we need that prequel. That would be great. Look at the
Yeah.
backstory on little boy chatter. But
Maybe we'll have to make it.
let's do it. Um,
Call it
but
Little Boy Chatter. A prequel.
yeah, but a lot of those movies were made just to retain the rights because I think it was like at a certain point, if you don't make a film in the franchise, you lose the rights to the movie. So a lot of
Mhm.
these movies were made, straight to, well, they're all made straight to video and like just made very cheaply. Although a lot of people like Hellraiser 5 Inferno, which I don't know. When I saw it, it just was trash. But I don't know. Maybe I
You
should
didn't
revisit it.
rewatch it for the pod.
No, I mean I have my limits.
Yeah, that's good.
But anyways, so
Should we keep plot
yeah,
bopping
yeah.
or?
Let's just finish up the regular Hellraiser. Kirsty gets out of the hospital and after she's promised Pinhead that she will take the Cenobites to Frank, she goes home because she's worried that her dad is going to get killed by Frank. And she gets there and her dad is fine. There's your
Hmm.
dad. He's got a little blood on him, but he's there.
Yeah. She doesn't even ask about it. It's like he's got all this blood in his hair and shit.
Yeah, he's got blood like surrounding his face and his hair. And she's like, we killed Frank. And so they go upstairs. Julia shows her the body of Frank, the skinned, you know, bloody mess in the attic. Larry says to his daughter, Kirsty, "Come to daddy." And she's like, "Wait a second. You're not my dad. You're Frank with my dad's skin on him."
But he is able to like mimic his voice exactly too.
Yeah, it's kind of face off logic. You just gotta just be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the voice comes with the skin.
Yeah. But so a little bit of a fight ensues. Larry ends up killing Julia with the line, "Nothing personal, babe." So Julia's dead.
But it's not really Larry, it's Frank.
It's Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frank
Larry's
in
dead.
Larry's skin
Hmm.
starts chasing Kirsty around, but Kirsty lures him into the attic where Pinhead shows up and the Cenobites,
His whole crew.
the whole crew, they chain him up, Hellraiser style.
Yeah, they pull him apart.
One of the great, I think, scenes in horror history is them hooking, you know, Frank slash Larry uh, by the face and pulling him. And, they have this big close up on him and he goes, Jesus wept. And then he explodes.
Is that line in the book?
No, so actually, it was originally just like he just says "fuck you," but the actor was like, "That's a little like can't we do something better?" And he just likes that biblical line, "Jesus wept," and so he just said it, and Clive was like, "Yes, that's great. Let's go with that."
So
And
the
that
guy who
comes up.
plays Larry came
Mhm.
up with the idea for Jesus wept.
Yeah, yeah. He
Well,
just was like, I don't really like "fuck you." Which I think is a great. I mean, he nailed it because Jesus Wept comes up again in the franchise, and
hmm
hell, Jesus, get the biblical thing going on.
Yeah, it's an abomination to God and
Hmm.
yeah, and all that.
Yeah, they do a lot of like people saying like Jesus Christ, and then being like not quite, like in the in the franchise. It's great.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they
The
kill.
story's not done yet.
No. So they kill Frank or send him back to hell or whatever it is they do. And but they're like, "Hey Kirsty, still wanna take a ride down to the dark side?" And they're like, "We have such sights to show you." And they try to convince her to go, but she just very quickly just presses a button on the box and they just get zapped back to hell. Which is kind
Nice.
of my least favorite part of the movie. I kind of wish that they would do a little bit more gore or whatever, but I feel like they maybe had maxed it out at that point. So it seems like he was kind of written into a corner because in the book, the story ends after they kill Frank and it's just like the end.
But the
Um,
engineer comes back.
he just kind of just shows up like just like and
Yeah,
like and
yeah,
then
I can't
she
really
zaps him
remember.
out.
Yeah, they got a cool zap out. Like he kind of flames out and zaps out.
Yeah, the funny thing about that creature, like the creation of that creature, it was like manned by I think like 8 different people. And if you look in the movie, you can see the wheels that it's set on. Like it's
Really?
like if you just look at towards the bottom of the frame, like it's like on this big rig that they're pushing forward. And and somebody was saying that like they all got like super messy because you quote, the guy said the engineer was covered in like tons of elephant cum.
Why?
Yeah, let me get the exact quote. He's like, it was a real mess because he was covered head to toe in elephant cum.
Where did they get elephant come from?
I don't know. I think he was just kidding. I can't imagine that
Uh,
it was like,
okay.
but I was like, is it real? Yeah. I mean, after that insane scene of Frank getting ripped apart, they keep it going a little bit.
Yeah, like everything after that is just like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And there's even another cherry on top after that scene.
Yes. So yeah, there's a very soft like boyfriend character that like is trying to help Kirsty at one point, like with the box, and she's like, "Get the fuck away from me!" I was like, "Stop trying to like mansplain the box to me."
Hmm.
But like so they zap everybody and then they leave to destroy the box and they go to this like flaming pit area. It's just like a just like an abandoned lot with a bunch of fire.
Yeah.
And she throws the box in the fire. And this homeless guy is
Much
kind
like
of a,
throwing the Necronomicon in the fire.
yes, absolutely. Bringing it
Gotta
back
burn
around.
it.
Yeah. So, we see throughout the movie this like hobo character who's like classic hobo with the beanie and a long beard.
Yeah, my favorite
Um,
bit of his when he's in the pet store and he's just eating a fistful of crickets.
yeah. And
It's
she's like,
just
"Hey, put those back."
and he just kind of stares at her.
Yeah. But he comes back at the very end when they're burning the box and he just walks into the fire. Uh, Great scene of like a dude fully engulfed in flames grabbing the box. And then he melts away into this flying demon.
Yeah, it's like a skeleton dragon, kind of.
He's got like ibex horns. Like they like
Hmm.
found like ibex horns and like weird like animal skulls or whatever, just like put them together. There's only one really quick shot, and then it's like the camera view of him like pulling away like a drone shot kind of.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's great. 5 stars.
Yes, it's a masterpiece, and yeah, I mean, if you love Hellraiser, if you like it, definitely watch Hellbound because it's like let's go deep into the Cenobite world. Let's go hard.
It's really good. It was harder for me to follow, maybe because I just rewatching it, I just went right into Hellraiser 2 without refreshing
Hmm.
myself with Hellraiser 1, but I feel
Hmm.
like it gets pretty confusing or like
It does.
by the end of it, but the vibes and the aesthetic of it are so cool. You can just vibe with it
Yeah.
if you like the hellish imagery. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. And also some great stop motion animation in that movie too, with like the little
Hmm.
tendrils of the
Yes.
doctor or whatever.
Yeah, the doctor is incredible. The doctor is in. And I love like how he has that weird like tremolo scream where it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's really funny. I really
Uh,
love the image from Hellraiser 2. It's like kind of early on where when Kirsty's in the psychiatric hospital or whatever, and she's in bed, and then she just sees the glimpse of like what she thinks is her father, like just like skinless on the floor, and just
mm,
help me, I'm in hell or whatever. What does it say?
yeah. I am in hell. Help me.
Yeah, just like written on blood, and he's just like
Yeah.
lying on the floor. It's like, oh, it's such a powerful image, and I was like, it
Yeah.
really freaked me out when I saw that.
Yeah. And you get a little bit of the Pinhead origin story. You see Pinhead before he was Pinhead when he was this captain in the war named Elliot Spencer.
Hmm.
And a lot of the movie is about her trying to like merge or no, that's actually three. But anyways, like there's an element of Kirsty trying to remind Pinhead that he was once human because I
Hmm.
guess that's something that happens when you're turned into a Cenobite is it like it erases your memories as a human. Real quick, again, like if you like the franchise, the first four are great, and I have actually fresh the Quartet of Torment is on its way to me. Arrow Video just put out a Blu-ray box set of all four of
Ooh,
those,
nice.
and I pre-ordered it. It should be here in a couple of weeks, and the special features in this are insane. Like it is just a laundry list of documentaries, behind the scenes, photos, drawings for each of these movies. So I'm super stoked to just like dig into all of that.
Nice. I can't wait to see that bad boy. Oh, another little Hellraiser thing I had in my notes is the rats nailed to the wall. And also
Mm-hmm.
the scene of Frank like slicing the rat like
Yeah,
while they're fucking or
that's
not
so
the
weird. It's like such a random scene. It's like Frank is in the closet, fucking Blue Velvet style,
Hmm.
watching Julia and Larry fuck. And like he's jealous, so he walks out of the closet and Julia's like, "Stop, stop. You're gonna like give yourself away." And he's got a rat and he just starts carving into it just because he's like pissed.
Yeah, well, yeah, you think he's gonna kill Larry or whatever right then and there, but instead he's like, I'm just gonna do this rat thing and freak you out.
Yeah.
It worked
But
for me. But yeah,
yeah,
I was thinking about Blue Velvet too because Blue Velvet came out a year before this movie and they both have evil Franks.
yeah. I was thinking about that.
Dennis Hopper plays Frank and
Hmm.
he's crazy and evil in that. And then you got Frank in this movie's crazy and
Hmm.
evil.
Yeah.
Two evil Franks back to
Freaky
back.
Franks. And they're both into weird sex stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could be a good double feature, Hellraiser and Blue Velvet.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Call it Freaky Frank Fridays.
Freaky Frank Friday. But Hellraiser 3 goes more into Pinhead's origin. You like meet him as a captain in the war. And then the fourth one is more about the creation of the puzzle box. So those first four are really kind of essential for like the full lore of it. Um
hmm
and everything after that is pretty much you can just ignore it all.
Yeah. So you don't have a ranking of all of the movies, really.
I attempted because you asked me.
Yeah, I wanted to see the attempt. And yeah, I didn't give my Evil Dead ranking, but it's pretty quick. I have at the bottom Evil Dead Rise, number 5. And I feel kind of bad, but I put Evil Dead 2 at number 4. I mean, it's still a great movie, but it's
Mhm.
tough when all these movies are so good. And I really do love the 2013 one, so I put that at number 3. And then Army of Darkness number 2, The Evil Dead number 1.
Nice. I just pulled up my list. So number one, Hellraiser one. Number two, number two, number three, number three, number four, number four. Um, I I used to totally write off four because I thought it like was just as bad. But after seeing these other ones, it's like it's good. And it has some great set pieces. I put Hellraiser 3 over 4 though, just because of those boiler room scenes and the fucking Cenobites. Like that alone is better than 4, but
Yeah.
I think that the story is better in 4. So I feel like, and also Hellraiser 1 and 2, like I feel like they're a combo. 3 and 4 are kind of a combo. So
hmm
I would watch those in order. After that, I put the new one, the new Hellraiser at 5, because I think it's just like,
2022.
yeah, I think it's just like got some good effort into it. Clive Barker is attached to it. He
How
kind
do
of
you
gave it
feel
its.
about the new Pinhead in that one? It's like kind of more of a like a feminine Pinhead.
Well, that was originally Clive Barker's vision. Was it was going to be a female Cenobite. The Pinhead was originally a woman. But
Oh.
since Julia was already the baddie, they didn't
hmm
want to have two female bad guys. So they
Yeah.
called on Doug Bradley. So I'm fine with that. I mean,
Okay.
and also in the book they're kind of genderless anyway. So
Some of the Cenobites in that new one look really good. Some of them I'm like, this one's it's not really doing it for me.
yeah.
But yeah, that movie's kind of interesting in that, or comparing it to the Evil Dead reboot, because they're both like the main characters are these women that are like kind of like trying to get clean with like addiction issues.
Hmm.
So they got some story beats that are pretty similar, which is kind of interesting. But I like the Evil Dead better.
Yeah, I honestly I can't remember much about it. I mean, I saw it like 2 years ago. But I remember seeing it and being like, well, it's better than all of the fucking Weinstein sequels. Like at least it's trying something that's
Yeah,
closer to the original vision.
yeah, it's watchable for sure,
It's washable.
and it looks pretty good.
Okay, so after this, this is kind of a very loose ranking. I put Hellraiser Judgment, which is the 2018 one. Um, at number 6 because it has this really cool element of like the auditor is like this character who like he's kind of like Pinhead where he like brings somebody in who's like, okay, so what are your crimes and what did you do in life that like warrants you going to hell? and he like
Hmm.
types it on this blood typewriter that like the ink is like the person's blood that he's talking to. So like as they talk, he's like transcribing their words with like a typewriter that inks in their blood, which is kind of cool.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
yeah. And then it's just really fucking gross. It's like they have this scene where like then a guy eats he like comes in, he's like a Eddie Pepitone looking guy. He like takes the papers that they just wrote like the transcript on, and he eats them with the tears of children. Like he literally like holds up a vial and he's like, tears of children. And he eats the transcript and then pukes it into a tube that goes into a trough that gets eaten by three like sexy ladies with their like face ripped off, and they like eat the puke and then like give the judgment, like they like say whether this guy is like worthy of hell or not. So like that whole thing is like very weird and gross on a level that like I don't remember any of the other movies doing anything that like elaborate and cool, but it's done in such a shitty way. Like I mean like it looks okay, and then the rest of the movie is just complete like just like a
It's
weird
boring.
detective trash. Yeah. Um okay, so then I'll just fire through the other ones. Then we at number 7, Hell World, which is like a weird like online movie. Like it's like five video gamers get invited to a Hellraiser
Mm-mm.
party. And like the cover looks like the Matrix. It's got like the green type over it.
Sounds
Um,
kind of cool.
yeah, the byline is evil goes online. So that's funny enough to go over the other ones. The next three, Inferno, Deader, and Hellseeker, those all just blur together for me. Like there are a few like Cenobites in there that are sort of interesting, but just look up a photo of them and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm like that's cool. The bottom is Revelations, which is the first time they do a Hellraiser without Doug Bradley. There's a really funny tweet from Clive Barker himself where somebody was like, hey, did you see that movie? And he responds, hello, my friends. I want to put it on the record that the flick out there using the word Hellraiser in all caps is no fucking child of mine. And it is like real trashy. It's just horrible. So that's my rank.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, you got final thoughts on Hellraiser.
My final thought is that I think it's a classic. I think it's iconic. I think
Hmm.
that I really appreciate it for its originality. I mean, there's nothing like the Cenobites. Not only do they look really fucking cool, but there's like a reason for why the Cenobites look like what they look like.
Hmm.
And there's a reason why the demons are called. There's this, like everything is very intentional, very well thought out, very interesting. There's a lore behind it. Nothing is like glossed over. It's really intelligent, also really fun, really
Hmm.
gross, really scary. It's got it all.
And it's a family film.
And it's a love story. Originally, it was supposed to be called Hellraiser, a love story.
Raimi was joking that Evil Dead was a love story. But
And these movies got a lot in common, I think.
yeah, they're both supernatural too, just
Hmm.
supernatural horror movies, which I feel like I have a gravitation towards something with a little bit more demon-y kind of creatures. I like to see a creature.
Hmm.
And both of these franchises definitely deal in that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little list. I've been working on horror franchise first entries, and Evil Dead and Hellraiser are the top two slots I got.
Beautiful. What else you got in there?
Number three, I put Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The
Nice.
number four, I got Halloween, five, Alien. But the list goes on. Those are the top five I have. The first entry in a horror franchise. Still some franchises I haven't checked out, but I feel like I've checked off a lot of the big ones.
It's kind of sad how the franchise of Hellraiser really dilutes it. Like if it was
Yeah.
just Hellraiser 1 and 2, those films would be untouched. It's like you can't. But all of the cash grab movies that come after it just really don't do those first two justice at all. Whereas I think that the Evil Dead franchise, continues to be okay. Halloween, it's like, they're all kind of passable, and they get
Hmm.
these theatrical releases at least. But all these
Yeah.
like straight to video Hellraisers, it's like, wow, they really
Gets no respect.
yeah, they sent the franchise straight to hell.
Yeah, they tore its soul apart. Oh yeah, another thought I had is at the ending of Evil Dead when the sun rises, I was giving me flashbacks to Scream and the ending of Scream and like the idea
Mm.
of like the sun coming up and like feeling like the evil
Hmm.
night has ended and like having a sense of peace after like a horrible night. Um, so another film with family film, so it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and last thing I'll say about Hellraiser is the score, I think, is beautiful. Like that score just gets me in the mood right away. It's so eerie and also like powerful, orchestral. I love it.
It's gorgeous.
All right, let's wrap this shit up.
Cut that.
No, it's great. Keep it. That's a good button on this whole thing.
Thank you for listening to this mega long episode, part
Yeah.
of Megalop Month,
Yeah.
The Evil Dead and Hellraiser. An episode me and Austin have been talking about for a long time. Feels great to finally have done it and
Yeah.
to go deep on these movies and these franchises. And, just express our love for horror.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to say happy Halloween. I hope you get spooked this year. Maybe watch these two movies if you haven't seen them yet. Also, a little bit of a swerve, but we want to thank Francis Ford Coppola for liking our Instagram post.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, FFC. Come, we want to invite you on the podcast.
Yeah,
You
you're welcome.
can talk about any movie you want to.
Yeah.
We'll roll out the red carpet for you.
Yeah, you're familiar now. But the actual blue check fucking Francis Ford Coppola Instagram account liked our post about Megalopolis. So what an incredible way to round out Megalopomonth.
Yeah, I wonder if you listen to the episode and they're like, man, they're trashing me on this.
There is no fucking way. Listen to it. I just
I
imagine
like to imagine him doing it though.
I just imagine him sitting in bed smoking weed, like just hearting every single thing that he's been tagged in.
Yeah, every Megalopolis mention he can find, he's just furiously liking.
Yeah. So thanks,
But-
Francis.
Yeah, it's great. We'll see you next month on Extended Family. Groovy. Which he doesn't even say that in the first Evil Dead, right? That comes in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
But groovy anyway.
Very groovy.
Hail to the king.
I'm in hell. Help me.
Whoa.
Come to daddy.